the Secrets to Self-Love show, where we are going to be talking today about getting rid of self-doubt. And I have the lovely Lilly Wang with me once again. We just love talking to each other. So we're going to go for round two, a little bit longer this time. So we hope you guys enjoy. And yeah, so we want to ask you a question. Have you ever struggled with that pesky self-doubt in the back of your mind? That little inner voice that's just being super hard on you. And yeah, some people call it that inner critic. We want to know in the comments below. Let us know if you've ever struggled with that. I think most of us have, to be honest. Actually, I feel like getting right into it right now. Like, I feel like you'd be a narcissist if you've never struggled with self-doubt, right?
Yeah, if you're human in today's society, you absolutely struggle with self-doubt, 100%.
So it's normal. So that's tip number one, I guess. Like, don't worry about it. It happens. But the end of this video is we want you guys to know how to eliminate that pesky little inner critic in your voice, how to quit judging yourself, maybe for not taking action in a time like this, right? I know a lot of people have slowed down and they're just taking it easy, but then there's that self-judgment piece of talking, right? Talk. And that can really lead to even more self-doubt or potentially giving up on whatever it is that you have as a goal. Or for myself, even, it's led to, in the past, extreme anxiety, depression, and it can show up in so many different ways. So we want to help you guys to have some remedies and solutions to that. So yeah, I'll just quickly introduce both of us. So in case you haven't seen the show before, my name is Kayla. I'm a self-love and confidence coach for women entrepreneurs who, you know, they're sitting maybe in that self-doubt and judgment and they're not ready to show up and shine, but I teach them how to do that. So every Monday, I post a video about self-love, confidence, body image, you name it. So that is the Secrets to Self-Love show. And yeah, a little bit about Lilly is that she has trained with some of the top thought leaders in the personal development and quantum physics universal laws, right? So thanks to her hippie father, she has started this journey of personal development, masterminding, and working with top coaches for well over a decade and a half. So this holistic background is why she's able to be results driven as she is heart centered. So welcome, Lilly.
Well, thanks, Kayla. Thanks so much for having me. And I'm so excited to delve into this topic of self-doubt, self-love, success, perseverance, and everything. I really think your listeners, I hope your listeners get a lot out of it. And yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. So off air, we were talking about self-doubt, right? And how it affects our results. So can you share a story or a time when you had a lot of self-doubt and how you got beyond it?
Sure. I mean, like we said in the beginning, self-doubt is kind of part of life. I mean, if it's okay, I'd like to contextualize that a little bit. So quite often we feel self-doubt and then we judge ourselves for feeling that. And then we judge ourselves for feeling bad about ourselves. And then we judge ourselves for not taking the action we'd like to take, right? So
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally. Been there, done that.
Yeah. It's like a cycle and so many of us are part of it. You could do that a lot or a little bit. I know we've all been in that cycle. So to contextualize things a little bit, we're not truly free agents in this society, right? There's multi-trillion dollar industries that are trying to tell us to look a different way, right? To dye our hair a different way, to get into shape a different way. You know, even if you met those quote unquote requirements 10, 15 years ago, the beauty standard changes, the marketing machine changes, and you would no longer be qualified in the same way now. So what that tells us is it's a never-ending cycle of catching up to what the marketing machine tells us we should do. So of course we're feeling self-doubt, because if we're judging ourselves in relation to what society's standards are, we'll never really catch up because society's standards are always changing, right? So
yes, I love that. I talked about that on my last show, actually.
Did you? Yeah.
Yeah, with my last guest, that is exactly what we talked about.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, it's such
Yeah.
an important topic. If you really think about the sociology and social psychology behind our society right now, that's exactly what it is. And so I think maybe giving us a little bit of a grace at this time and at any time is really important. Like I said, it's not that you feel bad about not looking, feeling, or being a certain way. It's the fact that you feel bad about feeling bad about it. You don't want to feel the self-doubt.
Yeah.
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 So let's make our lives a little bit simpler. You know, life is complex as it is. In terms of the relationship between you and you, let's be okay with a little bit of self-doubt. You cannot even turn on the TV. At this point, you can't even listen to music at this point without getting those messages of like, oh, you have to do this to change, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Totally. It's like we're looking for all those external things to derive our confidence from, and that's like the opposite of what I teach, is making sure that you have everything you need to validate yourself,
Yeah.
before you ever step out into the world.
That's exactly it. And that's why what you teach is so powerful, right? And and the other thing is, then people sometimes think, oh, I just have to shut it off. I have to not care and have really, really strong boundaries between myself and other people in society. But
Yeah.
you don't want that either, because you're a part of society. You're going to turn on the TV or you're going to talk to friends. So rather than erecting really strong boundaries and thinking that our confidence can overpower the outside world, let's just give ourselves a little bit grace. We'll never really match up to these standards outside, because like I said, if you did 10 years ago, those standards changed. 10 years ago, like, not having an ass was considered very attractive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that has completely...
And now people are getting...
Exactly.
Yeah. Now people are getting fat put in there.
Yeah.
And I can give that example of my 16-year-old niece, right? She was talking to me about how, you know, she's a little bit jealous of her friends because her friends are thick and she's not. And I'm like, you literally have the ideal body type of when I was in high school. Like, this is ridiculous. And I actually said, like, we're not doing this anymore. We are not going to stand in front of the mirror and criticize our bodies or compare them to somebody else. Like, no, we're not doing this. No. But I totally, that's the perfect example.
Perfect.
In just, I guess I would be like, what, 15-ish years older than her. And it's like, it just changes anyway. So what's the point? We're chasing this unrealistic expectation of ourselves, and for what?
Oh, exactly. For what? For the industries that are benefiting, right? And
Yeah.
that's such a perfect example. And here's the thing, like, things were hard enough when we were 15. Things were hard enough a decade, 2 decades ago. But now all the kids have like relentless social media pressure. And that's why, you know, the work you do, Kayla, is so important. That's why your listeners need someone like you so much, because the outside pressure, the outside judgment, the outside comparison is so strong, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember, now this is getting real personal, but you know, I say it in a facetious, cute, like funny way. But I remember I had an ass, like I had a bum. And that was not considered attractive. In fact, I wish I didn't. I wish I were twigs the way my friends who were dieting relentlessly were. And I remember I was in my my lockers, and one of my friends, her locker wasn't around our lockers. Every time she'd walk by, she'd like slap my ass because it was just bigger than what was ideal. By the way, it wasn't very big. But it just back then, the like extreme skinniness was so in. And now it's like I don't have an ass because people are working their asses off to get an ass.
Yeah, they're just doing all the squats.
They're doing all the squats. I haven't changed a bit. So here's the thing when it comes to self-doubt, self-confidence, you know, all the important things we're talking about together today is it's not you. You can be you. You can be your best self. And the world around you is going to keep spinning. So you might as well just be yourself.
Totally. You might as well just love the skin you're in, because that's another story I tell even a decade right later is that decade challenge from I think last year on Instagram. So I put a picture of myself next to myself, like, so I was 20 and then a picture of me at 30. And when I was in high school, like I've always been a curvier woman. That has not changed. But I always like hated my boobs, right? I just thought, nope, they're too big, they're saggy, whatever. Like I hate them. I wanted to get a reduction at one point. And now many years later, I see the pictures next to each other, and I see that my boobs as a 20-year-old are like a good 3 inches higher than they are now. And I'm like, why didn't I appreciate them back then? Like gravity is taking over, and guess what? They're going down from here. So I better appreciate my 30-year-old boobs right now.
Yeah.
Because they're going down, right? Unless I get surgery, which, hey, if that works for some people, that's fine. And I never know. Maybe at one point in time, that's the right choice for me. I don't know. But I'm just saying, like, why don't I just appreciate what I have right now? Because, like, that's the thing. We're all getting older. We're all getting, like, we can't hold on to it. Nothing lasts forever.
No. And one day when you're like a 70-year-old grandma, you're going to look at Kayla Marie from 31 and be like, wow, I was a hottie McTottie.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what life's about, by the way, guys.
You just better believe it right now.
Just believe it right now. So that was the golden nugget. All the listeners have gotten everything we've had to say. You're set for life now.
Yep, pretty much. Back to self-doubt, though. I guess this kind of veered off in the direction of body confidence, but I love it.
Boobs and butt.
Yeah, boobs and butt. Let's like whatever, body confidence. That's important too. And actually, that is something that a lot of people are struggling with right now because of being in quarantine, being in isolation, myself included, because I'm not able to go to the gym like I normally would. And I love getting that sweat on. I love working out, and I'm not able to. And yes, we can transfer onto, working out at home and stuff like that, but it just still puts a wrench in your regular routine, right? And so that can be a struggle. And even just the emotions coming up with being in isolation as well, right? Which causes some people like myself who have struggled with emotional eating my entire life. So it's really hard not to go back into those old behaviors. So I think it's really relevant.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I do think it's very relevant. And I know we weren't going to talk about body confidence, but maybe just before we wrap this piece of the puzzle up is, I was actually talking to a client a couple hours before we're recording this. And I said to her, sometimes when we're a little bit anxious or a little bit depressed or full of self-doubt, we can do what I call binary thinking. Okay. And I think maybe this might be really helpful to the people listening right now. Binary thinking. So yes, maybe you can't go to the gym right now. That sucks. I get it. Right. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it's light in a lighthearted way, but you can't go. You can't go. Right. So we call it what it is. But how do we apply binary thinking? It's so important because, and again, Kayla, you know this about me. In everything I do and teach, I do quantum physics. So what does that mean? It means in every moment we can make a next best decision. So my client hasn't been able to move for weeks because she has something happened to her ankle, right? So now she's bemoaning the fact that she can't run for half an hour like she used to. And that's understandable, right? And we can grieve that and we can feel annoyed by that and everything. It's very understandable. But listen, if you can't run, you can't run. If your ankle's hurting, it's hurting. If you can't go to the gym because of social distancing, you just can't. But what can we do now? Right?
Yeah, so what other choices do we have available?
Exactly. What other choices do we have available? Sure. So is that 10 squats? Is that 10 crunches? If you did those 10 crunches now, you're already better off than where you were yesterday. Now you're moving forward. And how that relates more and more to self-doubt is in every moment, if we choose just a slightly more empowering decision, we grow our self-confidence more so it overpowers the self-doubt.
Yeah, that's a great way of thinking about it, a great way to put it, because I talk about that in my Secrets to Self-Confidence program, which building trust in yourself, which builds confidence, right? So if you've promised yourself that, or for example, you value health and wellness, right? I do, because I like the way I feel when I eat healthy. I like the way I feel when I've, had a really good workout. I feel strong. I feel, you know, all those endorphins are going, I feel happy. And yeah, doing that is better exactly than not doing anything at all. And so if you can find a way to like integrate that into your new routine, that has been something for me that has been a bit of a struggle. So I've had to figure out, okay, what am I going to do and when am I going to do it? How do I set myself up for success? Because otherwise, if I'm making promises to myself that I know I'm not going to keep or that feel hard, don't do that, right? If you, like, for example, if you do want to incorporate some movement into your day, you know, but you're not a morning person, don't put it in the morning, right? Put it at another time. So that's sort of a little sneak peek into what you can do to set yourself up for success in your routine when you're redoing it because of social distancing or isolation.
Yeah. That's so well said. And for anyone listening, by the way, if we leave the laughter in the edits after editing, it's because thanks to social distancing, the internet is hyper slow. And so every couple minutes we're like, you're still there? You're still there? I mean, after the 7th time, you gotta laugh. So maybe we should leave one of the laughs in. But Kayla, you make such a good point. And by the way, for anyone listening, you know, motivation is so important. Changing ourselves, you know, becoming better every day. They are so important. So don't get me wrong. Like, if you feel that working out in the morning is good for you, you should absolutely do that. But at these times, you know, when things are really uncertain and you're already dealing with enough changes, right? What are those changes? You're probably not seeing your family or friends. You're probably not able to go drive out or to walk in the ravine. That's enough changes. So make your life a little bit easier. You don't have to push yourself with massive changes to your workout. If you're not a morning person, don't work out in the morning. Exactly what Kayla said. Make it a little bit easier for you to do the things that are good for you right now.
Yeah, totally. I'm just writing that down so we can recap it later.
Sure, yeah.
So make it easier to do what it is that you promised yourself you're going to do.
That's right. And that amount of self-love will overpower the self-doubt a lot. And that's so important at these times. For most of us, for almost all of us, we're facing unprecedented changes. And that's why there's a lot more stress and anxiety and even depression I've seen lately, right? We have enough to deal with. Make what you can control a little bit easier on yourself.
I love that. So another question we kind of had to ask is, what can we do what else can we do to eliminate self-doubt? I guess we already said that there isn't a way to eliminate it completely. So first of all, stop thinking that you're going to not think like that, because it just is a fact of life. So that's tip number 1, or 2, 3, 5, whatever we're at now. But yeah, what else can we do to I guess I would say decrease the self-doubt?
Yes. What else can we do to decrease the self-doubt? I think one really big piece of it is suspending our disbelief and envisioning a life that we do want to live. And I know that sounds like maybe that sounds almost so weird right now, because for a lot of people, they think, changing their lives for the better or personal development is all about habits. But habits are so important, but habits have to be for a reason. There's a reason. There has to be a bigger reason, a grander purpose for having good habits. Otherwise, we're just really healthy hamsters running in a hamster wheel.
Healthy hamsters,
right?
I've never heard that. I love it.
Like, it's 11 a.m. Let me run. Otherwise we're just another hamster. We're just not chubby. That's it. We're just healthy and happy. That's the only difference, right?
Yeah.
So what are our habits for? It needs to be for a larger reason, a larger purpose. That's what we call a vision. A vision is so important, because when you have a clear and strong and loving vision for yourself, for your life, for your relationships, for your, well-being, for your career, that'll get you through the hard times, right? Yeah. We all have hard times. If it isn't social isolation, it's something else, honestly. That's what I've learned in the 3 decades of my life. I used to think as a kid that if you're successful, if you do the right things, if you're a good person, if you have a lot of discipline, that there's no bad times. Boy, was I wrong.
No.
No.
I knew someone who once said, problems never go away, they just change.
Yes. Yes. And that's so true. And I've heard that from so many teachers, right? Tony Robbins is a really, really well-known teacher. He said, rich people don't not have problems. They just have rich people problems. They just, if you're a small entrepreneur, small business owner just starting out, maybe your problem is, well, right?
So
Maybe
true.
it's so true. So maybe a small entrepreneur starting out, to them, the problem is, I need 40,000 in funding. I need it in the next month or I'll go under. And that's a real problem. Now, if you've gotten that funding and you've worked on yourself and you've worked on your mindset and everything, 10 years from now your problem is, man, if I don't get those $40 million into this account, I'm going to lose this deal and I'm going to have to let 100 people go. And it sounds facetious, like we're making fun of like, oh no, 40 million, but it's a real problem. So guys, problems never go away. But when we have a vision that's higher and grander and bigger than the life we have right now, that vision will pull us forward. So we have a reason to get out of bed tomorrow. We all go through challenges. If it's not a relationship one, it's some kind of a disappointment, right? Some struggle. But why do we get up the next day? It's not just a good habit. It's also because our vision for what we want in life is bigger than what we have right now. And in order to get there, we have to get up the next day and do the work.
Mm-hmm. So what would you say to somebody who's really struggling with, I guess there's that motivation piece, because I know I've been there where I don't even want to get out of bed, and I also don't have the faith that like I have the vision, and let's say I've taken somewhat of the action steps, maybe I missed a piece, so that's why I didn't get the results or whatever, and then how do you stop yourself from spiraling into like crazy self-doubt or like the depression, right? Because that's what happened to me ultimately.
For sure. Yeah, that's a great question. So I can relate to that, Kayla. I'm sure a lot of the listeners can relate to that as well. It's okay, well, we have a vision for ourselves, but what happens if things really hit us hard and it's still hard to get out of bed, right? Well, in those moments, I would say we do two things. One is we lay the building blocks of our life. So that's number one. I'll get back to that in a second. And two, we praise ourselves. Okay, so number one was we lay the foundational building blocks in any way we can. So if you're not going through a super hard time, if you're right now, you're happy, you're thankful, you're motivated, you're able to be disciplined, we lay bigger blocks. What is that? Call your clients, email your list serve, right? Show up to the meetings, apply to the job, all those big things that we do when we're motivated. We do that when we can. But if you're going through a hard time, all that changes is that big building block just becomes a smaller one. So what does that mean, right? Maybe you're a little stressed out, right? Things have changed for you. You had to let someone go. You had to be let go, right? All these things that a lot of people are facing right now. The building block at this stage is, what can you do next that's going to support you even a little bit? So that next thing, we talked a little bit about health and wellness. That next thing could just be choose an apple. Choose an apple over whiskey. I don't know, right? Or that next thing could be, well, I used to have 10 clients. Maybe right now I have 2. Rather than feel so sad and so upset about that, treat the 2 clients you have right now really well. That's a foundational building block of your life. You're laying the building blocks of your life by treating what you have really well, right? Do you see how that already shifts the energy from, oh my God, I thought I'd be making this and this amount with 10 clients. They all canceled or quit. Do you see how that's a massive shift in energy from that to, I'm so thankful for the clients I have. I'm going to do everything I can with the energy I have to help them.
Yeah. Exactly. I talk about focus a lot. It's like that meme, if you guys have ever seen it, with the cat. Drop a comment or like drop the meme below with the cat in the kennel, but the lid is off the kennel. and he's just staring at the gate. He's just staring at the problem, even though there's like multiple ways out of the problem, but he's just sitting there focusing on the problem. So yeah, when you're focusing on the things that like you're not getting for results, and that's what I was doing at the time, if I look back, right, is I was focusing on like the fact that I had wanted to quit my job and I wasn't able to yet. And I, you know, there were financial goals that I hadn't met. I hadn't paid off my debt. I was still living in my little sister's basement and I didn't want to be, right? And so I was looking at all the things that were wrong with my life instead of looking for the things that were going right. And for, like you said, celebrating and praising myself for the things that I had done. Like, for example, at that time I had been putting myself out there on social media for a good, like a solid 6 months, really, really consistently. And so I was building a name for myself and a brand for myself, but I wasn't acknowledging it. So it was like, it felt like it was all for nothing, but it wasn't, right? It's just
Right.
celebrate. Yeah. Instead of focus on the not so great stuff. Because
Yes.
that's the thing. We're always going to have something in our life that's not so great.
That's
oh,
so
my phone
true.
is going off. Stop. I turned it off.
That's so true, Kayla, and you put that so beautifully. And for anybody listening to this, let me ask you a question. What are empires made of? Like, what's the Taj Mahal made of? What's the White House made of? Are these things not made of each individual block after block after block?
Yeah.
So if all the biggest and best things in life, obviously this is a metaphor, right? I'm not saying your life is the White House, but I'm saying that if the nicest buildings in the world, if they were all made of the same small building blocks, it's the same with your life. If you have a life that you want, right? Is it freedom, love, support, happiness, joy, success, whatever those things are, that's your vision. We reverse engineer it by thinking, okay, to even come close to getting that vision, we have to put in the day-to-day building blocks, right? If the Taj Mahal, something as grand as that, had to start with each and every building block, then shouldn't we do that as well for our lives?
Yeah.
Yeah. And quite often, people give up when it's all just rubble. As you're building things, you're digging things, it's dirty work, it's hard work, right? As you start laying the foundational pieces, it's not attractive, it's nothing like the Taj Mahal. But you have to do that work. And it's just like what Kayla said about building her social media presence. Maybe she's not at where she wants to be yet. Maybe she's not a household name yet, or whatever the vision is. Maybe she's not there yet, but that's represented by the Taj Mahal. Of course, you're not going to get there overnight. And if you did, you would have exhausted yourself. So we're not going to do it that way. We're going to do it the resilient way, the persistent way, block after block. Don't let self-doubt stop you. People are feeling so much self-doubt because they're looking at what they have. They're looking at the rubble right now. Connect with a vision, that vision for your future. And remember, it's the day-to-day things you do right now that take you there.
I love that. That was awesome. Focus on the things that we can do, not on what we can't do, right?
Right. That's exactly it. And I really want to emphasize the point that when you can do more, do more. And when you can't do a lot, do what you can. So let's use, again, two very obviously different examples. So the first example, you're motivated, you feel like you're on the top of the world. There's no problem you can't tackle. In those moments, whether it's a day, right, because day by day it's different, or whether it's a year, right, and everything's going smoothly for you, do a lot. Really put in the big structures, the columns, the big things to your building. And that's awesome. When times are good, we work hard, right? That's the thing. A lot of people like motivation. That's when that word really applies. But there are other times when things maybe are hard, right? If we got up and brushed our teeth, that was a win. Those moments are very real too. And for anyone listening, if that's where you're at right now, both myself, Lilly, and Kayla, we've been there. We're humans. Well, what do we do then? All is not lost. You still have your vision, but maybe when in those moments when things are a little bit harder and the word motivation or hustle and those words don't apply to you right now, then we just focus on, well, maybe I'll put one little block towards that vision, towards that building. Maybe I'll just, like flatten the cement a little bit to really use that metaphor, right? Maybe I'll just sweep the floor a little bit, clean the shrubs a little bit. And that's how you get through tough times, by the way, right? Like times are tough, and that's not the problem. The problem for most of us is we then berate ourselves. We feel bad for not doing more. Well, what if I really, really invited you to remember you have your ups and you have your downs. If you're in a down, that's just part of life. We don't judge ourselves. To eliminate self-doubt when times are hard, just focus on the next little building block that you can do. That eliminates self-doubt, that makes you feel so much better about yourself. And in the meantime, as you're doing that, you actually took the next step forward towards your vision.
Yeah, I love that, Lilly. That's a great explanation of, what's the next smallest thing? I think as coaches, a lot of us, that's the real question, right? Which is, we're natural problem solvers, and that's kind of what you need to ask yourself, right? It's what's the next small little thing that I can do? And I know, like, I can so relate to what you were saying about, like, when I was going through all my mental health stuff, my psychologist was getting me to give wins that were like tiny. And the thing is at the time I was judging myself for not doing enough, for not being enough. Like you said, sometimes taking a shower is a win, and that has to be good enough in that time. And that is okay. And it's okay, because you're gonna get better. You're gonna have the motivation one of these days, but to exactly have that bit of grace for yourself, right? Give yourself that grace. If it's hard right now, that's okay. And exactly what you said, like the hustle doesn't apply in that time, right? There is a time for hustle and there's a time for flow.
Yes. Oh, that's so beautiful. It's so true. And if you're in a time of hustle right now, don't feel guilty.
Yeah.
Don't go for it. I've heard clients say like, oh, I'm so busy with so much business and I kind of feel bad. I'm like, don't you dare feel bad. Take this time. You deserve it. It's karmic. You got what you wanted. You put in the work. Maybe things were hard for you 3 years ago and they're easy for you now. Don't you dare compare with other people. Yeah. If you're feeling the motivation right now, if the dollar bills are just coming in, pouring in, and you have tons of energy, go with it. You don't have to apologize to anyone. So that applies whether you're in a tough spot, don't apologize to anyone or yourself, or you're in an amazing spot, don't apologize to anyone or yourself. Do the work. If you're in a really motivated space, do the work. Thank God, thank you, the universe, thank yourself, you're amazing. If you're in a bad spot right now, do the work. What's that work? You took some deep breaths. What's that work? You were vulnerable with a friend or a coach. You shared with them. You got some support. What's the work? You chose an apple over a bag of chips. Wherever you are in life right now, whether it's in a high or maybe in a low spot, we're always constantly choosing things for ourselves. Choose the things that'll take you closer to the promised land, that'll take you closer to the vision that you know, love, and you deserve.
Yeah. I just keep saying, yep. I love that. See, this is why I have Lilly on my show, is because we're in alignment. We talk about a very similar, very similar thing, right? With our, in the way that we both coach people. And really, when you come down to it, coaching is, the fundamentals are very similar, right? So, that next step is crucial, and not like what I talk about a lot in mine is judgment, right? So not judging yourself and for judging yourself. Like, and then you're just getting into this cycle of judgment, and that is what causes depression, for some people, suicidal thoughts, and all this craziness happens just because they're judging themselves. So if you could just take a step back and be kind to yourself like you would a baby, right? Or say your best friend. Like if you wouldn't say, like, get self-awareness around what you're saying to yourself, that self-talk, right? A good way to realize what you're doing is how you're feeling, right? When you check in and like, okay, if I'm feeling crappy today, what's the story that I'm telling myself right now? And if it's not helpful, then, you know, starting to build different story, starting to only allow belief in the thoughts that are going to serve you instead of the ones that aren't. Because really, because people will say, I used to think to myself anyway, you know, oh, but that's not true. But what if it was, right? What is the truth? I talk about this too in my workshops, which is, you know, Taylor Swift example. So some people love her, some people hate her. Which one's the truth? Doesn't really matter, right? No. She's off living her life, being a millionaire and being happy. You know what I mean? I'm not equating money to happiness at all. I'm just saying, but she's just doing her thing.
Yeah. She's doing all those things, and she's angry at Kanye West, you know. So she could also use some help, but you know, yeah.
Yes. She could use a coach. Yeah, Taylor Swift. If you see this, you can call us. We'll help you get over that little grudge. No, I'm kidding. But
not kidding.
Yeah, but not kidding. Exactly. Yeah, anger and resentment is not a good place to be either, and it just wastes your time and attention and energy. Although she has profited off of it, so it's working for her, right? But it's that short term,
right?
Yes,
she's a creator.
It's that internal piece. For me, it's like, is it adding to your life or is it not? That internal piece of like looking at it and being like, is this worth my time and attention anymore? And then just letting it go if it's not, or like I said, creating a new story or new pathway so that it helps you to achieve that grander vision that you're talking about.
Totally. And for a lot of people, I mean, this may be a topic for another time, but for a lot of people, they haven't developed the habit of thought, the discipline of thought, of focusing on themselves, right? The vision, because they don't think they deserve a vision. Well, then they don't think about their vision. They don't even dare dream about their life vision. So what do? They start putting in some work, you know, they start, you know, digging and putting in the foundation to this building, to this life, but they get sidetracked. Okay, so there's a number of ways we get sidetracked, right? We just said anger and resentment is one. Jealousy is a really, really big one. Jealousy comes from comparison. But listen, you don't know if next to you, the dude or the dudette or the person or whatever is building a duplex. Maybe you're building a skyscraper. So at ground zero, at the ground level, you cannot tell what they're doing and they cannot tell what you're doing. Right? I said this on my Instagram live yesterday. The only, like, your dream, your potential, it's so unlimited. Only you and God knows what it is. And if you're not religious, it's totally fine. The only one in this universe, you and this world knows. So when we're judging ourselves and we're comparing ourselves and feeling jealous, not good enough, not worthy enough, it's because we're standing on the ground floor, the ground level, trying to attempting to see what others are doing, attempting to see what we're capable of. We can't judge at that level, right? Think of any amazing singer, songwriter, dancer. Think of J.K. Rowling. Think of Elon Musk. Look at where they are now and compare that with 10 years before their fame. It's a massively different world. It's a different life. But the whole time, had they judged themselves so much that they had stopped, that would have been it. You know, J.K. Rowling was in and out of welfare. She was a single mom, and she was, quite frankly, I think she said this openly, she was depressed. You cannot judge a person, and she should not have judged herself at that point. But she had a vision. She had a vision of Harry Potter. She had a vision of bringing fantasy to life. And, you know, honestly, quite frankly, if you're in and out of welfare and in depression, is every day going to be a great day? Probably not, right? No. But she put in the building blocks. She still did. I'm assuming maybe one day she did and one day she didn't, right? Because life throws curveball at you, and they did for her. But she still went for it, and every day she was adding something until eventually she hit that vision.
Yeah. Totally. And it's okay to take a break too sometimes, right? Like I know for myself in the last year, I've had to take breaks from my business or, breaks from working on myself. Cause sometimes it's like, it gets to be a lot, right? It gets to be like all this pressure of being perfect or achieving this and that. And sometimes you've got to look at the internal reason as to why you're doing that, right? Like, what is your intention? Is it that you don't feel worthy unless you do this, or that, or the other thing, right?
Yeah.
Instead of just giving yourself that complete unconditional love that we all deserve. It's inherent, right? You would never, ever, ever look at a little baby and think, yeah, that baby doesn't deserve my love. No, you're like, oh, it's so cute. And just look at those little cheeks and you just love on that baby. That you don't even question whether or not it's like, oh, is this baby going to be a lawyer or a doctor or something like really important and contributing to society? No, you just give that baby love. That's it.
Yeah.
And that's the way that we should be loving ourselves. It doesn't matter if, today I get 10 calls done and I make, I don't know, however much money. And like, that's not the only way that I should measure my success. That's not the only way that I should be like, I did good today. No, some days, like you said, it's literally, I rolled out of bed and had a coffee this morning, whatever.
Yeah. You said it so perfectly, is you when you look at a baby, you just look at this baby with love and infinite unconditional love, and that's how the universe looks at us, because we're a child of the universe, right? So when it comes to our life and our life vision and our purpose and what we deserve, it's infinite. It's so unconditional. But in our humanness, in our human experience, remember in the top of this call, we talked about marketing and that never-ending marketing machine. We have to look this way, do this thing, get this in order to start feeling good about ourselves. That's never ending. And it's the same thing as what I said a couple minutes ago. In our humanness, we're standing on, level 0 or the first floor, looking around. Other people are on the 4th floor. Other people are building something else. That comparison piece gives us more self-doubt. Stop looking around. Stop comparing. You have no idea what that person is up to. No clue. Whatever they're showing to the world on the outside is all you can see, but all the inner work, you don't know what they're doing. You may as well just focus on you. And that's why actually a lot of people, when they adopt a spiritual practice, whether or not they're religious, right? It's a, if it's a very loving practice, they stop comparing themselves. I often get questions like, Lily, how do I eliminate the, what's that term? Like you're not good enough syndrome, imposter syndrome. Yeah. Like I get that so much. And that's just a really polite way of asking, how do I stop being jealous? It's basically the same thing almost. It's just a slightly more respectful and slightly more evolved, spiritually evolved experience, but it's a very similar thing. It's on the same spectrum. How do you not feel like an imposter, not good enough? How do you stop feeling like other people are better than you? How do you eliminate that and start feeling better? You focus on your vision. Focus on your vision. Your vision is just between you and God. That's it. And when you do that, you eliminate the competition, you eliminate comparison, and you eliminate self-judgment.
Yeah, that's awesome. So just to recap a little bit, we talked about motivation. The way to get it is to, make things easy for yourself. And if you're on fire right now, honor that. And if you're not, and you're not having a good time, you're not having a good day, that's okay. Honor that too, right? Set yourself up for success. Focus on your vision. Focus on your why is what I would say. Like, why are you doing this? What's your bigger vision? And then all of that combined will help you to cultivate that self-love, self-compassion. And then by default, there's no room for self-doubt. Would you say that's accurate, Lily?
Yes, I would say that's accurate. You put it so well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the Secrets to Self-Love show once again. I've had an amazing time talking to you. Like I said, I can't get enough. I love talking to all my entrepreneur friends about these kind of things. And so if anyone has any questions for you, Lily, they can reach you on Instagram or Facebook, right? So at the Lilly Wang, Lily is spelled with 2 L's. And that's on Facebook and Instagram, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, just, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram. I'm not the biggest social media person, but I do put out content that I think is supportive at times like these. And also, if anybody is interested in the topic of resilience, I'm hosting a workshop on that Sunday, May the 3rd, and they'll get the link to that on my Instagram. These times are so uncertain, and I would say to anyone listening to this, try to reach out. It doesn't have to be me. I'm not saying, oh, reach out to me, but reach out to a coach, reach out to a mentor who has the desire and ability to support you through this, right? So maybe you can't afford a $2,000 investment in coaching right now, but try to surround yourself with a mentor, with a coach in some way. Follow what they post, listen to their lives, and you're doing exactly that. Listen to this audio recording of this video that Kayla and I put together. I used to, back when I couldn't afford coaching many years ago, I would listen to my mentors over and over again. There are ways to save certain YouTube videos onto your phone. I'm sure if you Googled it, you get it like that. I would do that. I remember this was about 8 years ago, right? It was a challenging time in my life. I just saved those, and I had about 4 to 5. Bob Proctor, he's a coach of mine, audios on my phone, and I'd listen to them day in and day out. And then years later, I would invest in coaching with him. But do what you can now.
Exactly.
Invest time-wise, energy-wise. Listen to the teachers and mentors who can guide you in the right way. We all need them. And I think if this is a hard time for you, it's more important than ever that you listen to the right things.
Yeah, exactly. Whoever it is that you follow, right? Or you look up to. I guarantee that person has free content out there that you can listen to for sure.
Yes.
I do want to share actually something exciting that I'm putting together right now, which is the Secrets to Self-Confidence program. And it is being offered at a price right now that I have never offered it before because of everything that's going on. And, it's a time that people really need it the most. So I am launching that on May the 4th, starting at 12 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So I am being protective of who I allow into the program right now, just because I want everybody to be able to grow and support each other, right? So there are limited spaces available. Don't be shy. Click on the link below here. I'll put it there for the application form. And how it works, you just book a call first, and then there's some questions to fill out on the form. And if I think you are a good fit for the program, then I'll give you, we'll have a phone call, and we'll see how that works, and if you're fit. And then after that, if there isn't something that I can do to help you personally, I have a wide network of friends, right, that I could possibly refer you to, or, a free resource or something like that. So don't shy away from booking the call just because, maybe we've never met. This is actually the only way that you can get to know me right now, which is online. So yeah, don't be shy. Click the link, book a call. I promise you, it's not going to be super pressure. It's just like, here's what I have to offer. Is that something that would be valuable to you? And if not, that's cool too. I'm totally fine to help you out in any way that I can. So that's about it, I think. Thank you guys so much for listening all the way to the end here. And I hope you are staying safe and enjoying life.
Yeah. Thank you, Kayla. You're a wonderful hostess. I'm sure your listeners know that about you and love that about you. So thanks for hosting this. Thanks for having me. And thanks for sharing this with all your followers.
Absolutely. Anytime. You always add value.
Yeah. Thank you.